Check, check.
See my new water bottle?
No. Dope.
That's sick, huh?
Yeah.
Mom.
Wood grain?
Yeah, my mom made it for me.
Made it.
Yeah, or I mean, she didn't carve it.
Oh. Well,
but
that's what that means.
I mean, I wouldn't put it past her. She is kind of like that, but it's dope.
Hit up the
Everything tailored, dude.
Yeah.
Literally. New shirt. You see this? Black on black.
Sick.
That's
Where do you
dope.
get that from? Brent Northwest?
Yeah, customized it. It's not available on the store that we have. Which, by the way, people, if you want to wear a tailored coaching method shirt, you can get a hoodie or a shirt on whatever the link is in the show notes. We'll link it in there. I can't remember. I think it's called like tailored dot or TCM dot print Northwest or something like that.
Yeah.
But I'll link it. But we have a bunch of people buying them in the Facebook group and shit and
Sick.
repping it. It's just to me, I'm biased. It's a dope logo though.
Yeah.
So it actually
definitely is.
actually looks cool wearing it. Like I feel like I would rock it.
Yeah. Even if I wasn't part of it.
Yeah.
Or trained with you or anything.
Especially these ones are cool too because they have that like scoop, whatever cut.
On the bottom
I think it's called like a scallop cut or something like that. So it's not just like a normal shirt. It's like fitted differently and stuff.
Gotcha.
But they're dope, man. I'll probably get a tailored tattoo soon too. Across my knuckles.
Oh my God.
Actually, literally tailored would fit perfectly across my knuckles.
Yeah.
I'd do it if it wasn't for Shannon.
Yeah.
Shannon said no hands. No hands and neck. And I was like, all right.
Just forehead.
You didn't say face.
All right, let's get into this.
Yep.
All right, we're going to start off with the first question here, guys. We got McKinley Ward. I was wondering if you could explain how to program using RIR. Would you use this more for compound lifts, or would it apply to both compound and accessory movements?
Yeah, so RIR stands for reps in reserve, kind of like RPE.
Yep.
But in the inverse, I think it's more applicable. The program you're running right now uses RPE, I think.
Correct.
Right. So RPE is an 8 RPE is like you're going on a scale of 1 to 10, 8, right? But if the rep count is 6, it can be kind of challenging to think about like, okay, well, how many reps in the tank do I leave on that? How hard do I go? With reps in reserve, it's the same thing but inverse and a little bit different where it's like if you have a set of 6 and you have a 2 RIR, you leave 2 reps in the tank. It's very obvious. Reps in reserve is 2. You have 2 reps left.
Same exact concept.
It's the same concept.
Okay.
It's just it's the same type of tool and it has the same outcome. It's just, in my opinion, it's a little bit easier for most people to use. It just makes more sense.
RIR.
Yeah. RPE was originally built for endurance. So like people who would run marathons and like long distances, they would use RPE as a way to gauge how hard their pace was. Because if you have to run for an hour straight and you don't know your pace, you might like kind of blow your load, so to speak, in the first 10 minutes. And then you're walking because you can't keep running. And then somebody try to convert it into powerlifting as a way to do their lifts. And then more people use RIR instead of like hypertrophy. But reps in reserve, I use it on everything. I mean, I don't just leave it to the compounds. I think just how you use it or like what RIR you're using depends on the exercise.
There we go.
So on a compound, I'm probably going to have, in most cases, like week 1, like it might be like a 3 RIR. It's like, hey, we're going to do front squats this block. Get used to it. Leave 3 reps in the tank, focus on form. Week 2 might do the same thing. Week 3, we might add a couple sets of 2 RIR. So you're starting to leave less in the tank. And then like week 3 or 4, you're doing like 2 and then even like 1 reps in reserve. And eventually you get to a point where like you finish your last set with like 0 in the tank. You're going near failure. But you don't spend much time in that like 1 to 2. You spend more time in the 2 to 3 on the compound because it's just like back squatting or front squatting or barbell bench pressing is more dangerous than a dumbbell posterior fly, right? And so like on a posterior fly, I'm going to use RIR as well, but it's going to be like 0 or 1 because I don't care if you go to failure. You're not going to hurt yourself going to failure. And the systemic fatigue, so the fatigue over the entire system, nervous system, joints, your psychology, the mental side of it, the muscular side of it, is far lower compared to the systemic fatigue of a back squat or a trap bar deadlift. Because when you're lifting heavy with a compound lift, it's just draining.
Yeah.
It's taxing. But, I mean, nonetheless, use RIR across the board. It's just like you usually use it more strategically to leave a few reps in the tank with compounds so you can focus on form and just slowly progressing, and you can take it closer to failure during the isolation work. But again, it's just a way to gauge that, you know. And then the cool thing about that too is for some people on a deload week, I don't really have to do anything except change the RIR. So we can leave the program completely the same, because a lot of people will be like, well, do I drop volume by 25%? How much should I lower intensity? What should my weight be? And it's like, hey, normally you're in the like 1 to 2 RIR. I want you to go like 3 to 4. So every set you're leaving 3 to 4 in the tank. You're forced to go lighter and take it easier, and you deload.
How do you decide on how much you go lighter?
What's your RIR? Right? So like if you're doing 200 pounds on a trap bar deadlift and it's a 2 RIR, and I'm like, hey, it's deload week, make that a 4. When you're working up, you'll just stop well before 200 because you're like, oh, I got to leave 4 in the tank. It's deload week. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you just kind of intuitively lower the weight as you go.
When you're doing your warm-up reps.
Yeah, because it's different for everybody. So for me to say, like, because I used to try to articulate it like, hey, like drop 20% of the load. So if you have like, you're like 200 times 20%, and then you want to pull that off. But for some people, like if you're deadlifting 400 pounds, like you might need it to be reduced by like 50%.
Yeah.
Because it's so much more, you know. It's like the warm-up question you asked me the other day. How many sets should I do for warm-up? Like, how heavy are you going?
Yeah.
You know, because it's all relative. Like CJ took 2 extra warm-up sets from me because he's repping 255 on the bench and I'm repping 205. So like I reached my working weight way before him. So I started my working sets before him.
Gotcha.
The heavier you go, the more you warm up.
Yeah.
So I think it's all relative. But I've been using RIR on all my programming. Most of the programs in the Tailored Trainer now use RIR over RPE, just because I think universally I've noticed more clients understand it just easier. That's how many I leave in the tank. Cool.
For sure. For some reason, I think it would be easier for you to say to me, take off 20%, just because. But the way you say it, as in just think about when you're doing your warm-up sets, saying, okay, I just did 5, I have 3 more in the tank, I might as well stay at this weight.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when as you get used to a lift, like you can kind of determine like, okay, if I'm leaving, like if I go up to the bar and I'm like, I got to leave 4 in the tank because it's deload, I'm just going to hit this weight.
Yeah.
And I already know because I've done this so many times before that I know my weights are in these certain places. But I still think, I think RIR is more applicable in some cases just because like your trap bar deadlift versus your bench press. Think about it. Like you can deadlift way more than you can bench press.
Yeah.
Most of us can.
Yeah.
So the percentage is going to be different.
Yeah.
You know, the total load is going to be different.
But not.
The RIR can be the same.
Yeah.
It's universal.
Yep. All right. Next question is from Maddie Seats. Say you have an untrained individual and a trained individual. So both have the same stress levels, nutrition, hormones, etc. Would the trained individual recover from micro trauma better than the untrained individual, with all these variables being equal? Or does it solely depend on the other factors, like I mentioned, nutrition? Like, would the inflammatory... That's not the right word.
No,
inflammatory?
Yeah.
Like
I'm assuming.
Like the inflammatory response be different in the trained individual due to the greater adaptations to the training, or the untrained individual?
This is a good question. I think this would be a cool study.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll tell Brandon to do it. I
Ask.
think, ask. We just have the college funded, dude. It's cool. I think it's hard to say. So basically the question is like, would the trained individual recover from the same amount as the untrained individual? I think, first, the SAID principle, specific adaptations, I can't remember the whole SAID principle. I believe it's a SAID principle, but essentially like as you do something, it's kind of like the repeated bout effect. As you do something, it's easier to adapt from.
Yeah.
The more times you do anything, repetition, period, you just get better at it, right? And you can recover from it easier. Even like immunity, like we've been talking about the virus and stuff like that. Once you get it, you can recover from it and you can like stay away from it and you have that immunity to it. Same thing happens in training. So the more you train, the better your body gets at adapting. So, and that's also why like you don't prescribe a beginner 20 sets per muscle group per week, because they could get by with 10 and see great gains and probably still have to like really focus on recovery, versus somebody who's advanced might need twice as much. So I think first and foremost, it goes without saying that most likely the trained individual is probably going to recover better and faster just because the repeated bout effect, like they've just been doing this for so long.
For sure.
The other part of the question was, would the inflammatory response be the same?
Correct.
So I think what she means by that is there's this like whole micro trauma thing she mentioned. There is a inflammatory response to the muscular tissue in the cell that causes it to grow, right? So you stress the muscle. It creates a sense of inflammation and damage, essentially. Your body has to repair and recover that muscle, and then that muscle comes back bigger and stronger. It's like the process of just laying new muscle tissue, right? You eat protein. Protein is a building block, so on and so forth. But what they're finding more and more is that muscle damage is more of a correlation than a causation, we believe. I'm actually doing another episode I think it's tomorrow, as we're recording this, with Mike Israetel, because he wants to talk about just muscle damage, which is going to be cool. But essentially, like what the science has shown is like muscle damage itself doesn't lead to muscle growth. It's just part of the journey. So what leads to muscle growth essentially is mechanical tension. How much tension can you place on the muscle fiber? And that causes a sense of inflammation and muscle damage. But that muscle damage isn't the reason you're building muscle. It's that mechanical tension. So sometimes that's why the stimulus to fatigue ratio is great, because if your stimulus is super high, but your fatigue ratio is pretty low, your stimulus to fatigue ratio is in a really good balance because you're getting a ton of mechanical tension and stress on the muscle, but it's not that fatiguing, meaning you can recover faster. But if you do an exercise that's like somewhat stimulus and like super fatiguing, now you're having more muscle damage, but less tension, right? So there's not really a benefit there.
For sure.
So with her question, the inflammatory response, first we have to remember, like, the goal shouldn't be to inflame the muscle necessarily. That's just a part of the journey. Like, you're going to be sore, and sometimes it's a proxy to let you know you're doing the right thing. So, like, sometimes people will be like, oh, I'm pretty sore from yesterday. But if they say it with a smile, I'm like, perfect. That's a good thing. If they're like, fuck, dude, I can barely walk, I'm like, oh, shit, we went too hard.
Yeah.
Because that stimulus to fatigue ratio is not good. But if you're sore and you have muscle damage, it probably means you created enough mechanical tension. But going back to the repeated bout effect, if I do the same program for 4 weeks straight, I'm starting to get better at recovering from those movement patterns and those intensities and ranges of motion, that I will have less inflammation and less muscle damage, but still that great amount of stimulus. And that's kind of like the sweet spot we want to be in, which happens with training experience.
Gotcha.
All this to say, I think that the beginner is going to experience more inflammation because they're not used to that stimulus. And that's not necessarily a good thing. But we also know that newbie gains are a thing. So like sometimes people gain rapidly at the beginning, and is that because of muscle damage, or is that just because it's a new stimulus that they haven't experienced? We don't know yet. So, and I'm interested Mike is a researcher and a PhD, so I'm interested to what his concept is with this. But in general, I would say, like, most likely the trained individual is probably going to recover better. I think that the untrained individual will have a greater inflammatory response because of the training.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we can say that that's going to lead to better growth. We can say that they're going to grow more, because if you take me versus somebody who's never trained, we do the same program, this person's going to build muscle faster because I've spent the last 9 years trying to build muscle, you know? But there's also like the random, I'm in this zone where it's like it sounds weird saying it about myself, but like I'm growing at a crazy rate that I wouldn't expect being at such an advanced level. Dude, I've gained 9 pounds now in the last like 2 months, and it's like that's a lot of weight. And I can still see my abs in the morning. I'm not like ripped, but like I'm definitely not getting fat. So it's like, why is this happening to me? And part of that is because of surgery and stuff like that, but it's also because we created such a new stimulus. It's like, okay, let's really dial in this, and all these different things were essentially creating this new. It's like a newbie gain because it's like I haven't been this dialed in a while. So sometimes this is there's caveats to this whole theory, but yeah, I think in general, trained individuals are going to recover better and faster just because of the repeated bout effect. They're used to it. And untrained individuals are going to have a greater inflammatory response, but I don't think that's necessarily the reason they're growing. I think it's just a part of the process inside of growing.
Yeah, it definitely happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does that answer? Like, because their question was just like, who has greater
definitely. That was
inflammatory response?
all aspects of that. Yep. All right. Next question is from Megan Alice. BCAAs necessary, optimal for fast training, lifting, and cardio? Question.
I'm assuming she meant fasted training.
Yep. For BCAAs necessary, optimal for fasted training.
Okay. So basically, like, should you take BCAAs if you're training fasted? The science would say no. The bro in me says yes. Why not? Because it's like, well, I mean, it can't hurt. Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, BCAAs can't hurt. But if you're getting enough net protein across your day, they're not really adding much benefit. And we have to remember too, like, BCAAs are isolated. So there's valine, leucine, isoleucine, and I believe that's what it is. And it's it's a small section of the total amino acid profile. So if you drink a whey protein shake, you're not just getting these isolated ones. You're getting all the amino acids. And this is a funny analogy, but it kind of works like THC and CBD. So, and I'm not like an expert on that stuff, but I know enough because I've dug into some of the research. And like CBD works better coupled with THC because the whole plant has CBD and THC and a bunch of different other cannabinoids, but they work in junction together much better than they do isolated.
Absolutely.
That's kind of how amino acids are as well. Yep. So if you take BCAAs, they might do a little bit of something. You might see a small muscle protein synthetic response, like a bump in muscle protein synthesis. But if you have a whey protein shake or even EAAs, essential amino acids, you're going to get more of a response and you're going to be better off. So I would recommend either doing EAAs or a full whey protein shake versus fasted, versus branched chain amino acids. And I would also recommend it over fasted. I'm not a huge fan of fasted training. I just don't see the point. So if you're training super early and you can chug down BCAAs, I'm sure you could chug down a whey protein shake. Like, it's not going to be that, if you get a whey protein isolate, it's 0 fat, 0 carb, 25 grams protein, it's like 100 calories. It's not like you're eating a full meal and you feel lethargic. Because if some people train at like 5 in the morning, you know, but you could, when I would train that early, sometimes I would literally have it like as I was warming up. So as I'm going into the workout, that way it's like just literally while I'm walking the gym. And some people are like, oh, I got to eat an hour before, maybe ideally, but you're going to be fine. Yeah. Like, unless you're like eating a big ass meal. Like, I remember there was times where some of the guys would be literally eating a meal while we're like rolling out and warming up. And I was just like, man, I don't know how you do that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I haven't ate, I'm hungry. I'm just like, I'd throw up. Yeah. I'd throw up. It'd even be at night too. Oh. We'd be busy all day working. I'm like, fuck that, man. I can't eat and then train like that. But a whey protein shake is probably going to be more beneficial than aminos, unless you get essential aminos. But yeah, that's probably, I wouldn't waste the money.
Yep. All right. Next question. Oh, I'm going to butcher this. Bhupinder Thakur. Whoa. Are muscles sensitive to protein after a workout?
Yes. So,
all right.
I don't know if like muscles being sensitive to protein is the right scientific terminology.
Yeah.
But in a sense, yeah. I mean, there's a couple things that happen when we work, or like I've mentioned muscle protein synthesis already on this podcast. We want to spike that. Like, that's basically our body's anabolic signal. When that goes up, our body has this anabolic response. And anabolism is growth. Catabolism is breakdown. So anabolism is like build muscle. Muscle protein synthesis goes up, so does growth. One of the things that causes this is consuming protein. One of the things that causes this is working out and strength training. As we strength train, our body essentially wants... It's more receiving. So I guess in a sense it is more sensitive. It's kind of like insulin sensitivity going up, and your body can absorb carbohydrates a little bit better around your workout because you're more insulin sensitive, especially post-workout. Very similar with working with protein. And at the end of the day, like when you train, your body is searching for amino acids, but the full spectrum of amino acids that are found in like whey protein or regular protein, to help repair and rebuild. I mean, amino acids and proteins are literally the building blocks of muscle tissue. It's what allows us to build muscle. So when we work out, we do get a response, but when we eat, we get a response. And when we're training, we're breaking down muscle. And so there's this muscle protein breakdown balance. As we break down, we want to rebuild.
Yep.
So our body is kind of like trying to rebuild as we work out or after we work out. So that's why it's so important to get protein in after your workout. So in a sense, yeah, like I said, I don't know if that's like
sensitive.
Yeah. I don't know if sensitive is like the terminology we would use. Again, I'd have to get Brandon on here to,
but it reacts.
But it reacts exactly. Yep. And it's required. So I think you could say that.
For sure. All right, good question. Next question is some people's names. That's really my name. That's his Instagram.
We've had a lot of questions from That's Really My Name. I want to know what your real name is.
That's it.
That's. What if it is? No. Because there's
their name. I'm not gonna say he or she. Their name is That's.
I'm trying to think. There was a guy that we did Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with that it wasn't. It didn't. You didn't pronounce it that, but like that was his shortened name was THAT, and I can't remember what it was.
That. All right. This guy's question is.
It's a girl.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Her question is, your opinion on having kids in school learn the basics of training, i.e. form, recovery, nutrition, etc.
Just for you guys to know, these are on a Word document, so Travis can't see your face.
Yeah.
So don't take that offensively. And, I mean, that's really your name. How are we supposed to know? First of all, tell me your real name. Second of all, I think, my opinion on it, I don't know if I'm the person to give my opinions to the public school legislation, but
it's still your opinion.
I would say they should. I mean, I think
it's only positive.
Yeah, I think all schools are kind of getting further and further away. I personally believe that the three things schools should do more of, one of them it's already pretty good, but socializing. I mean, obviously schools are very social places.
Yeah.
But I think that's honestly the biggest detriment of kids not being in school right now with COVID-19 going on is not necessarily that they're going to miss out on all this knowledge because, I mean, yeah, you learn stuff in school, but we can learn that shit anywhere.
Internet,
exactly. Yeah. But the social aspect of seeing friends and being around other kids, I think is super important, especially like when they're young. That's like how they develop, you know? So I think social aspect, I think the fitness aspect should definitely be a part of it. I think that kids go through school without knowing anything about what real food is, what a protein is, what they need to be consuming, why are vitamins and minerals important, and being lazier and lazier as time goes on. So I think having more requirements there, because I'm pretty sure PE has basically dwindled away as the years gone. Like, I mean, it used to be like required to run the mile every week. You used to do like those rope climbs.
Yeah.
Like, you actually had to be in decent shape.
Yeah.
Granted, I wasn't, but point being is like,
you still did it.
I still did it, and they forced me to do it. And as I went through school, it got like easier and easier because they took away more and more of it, you know. But I definitely think it'd be smart. I think it'd be super helpful. I think the other aspect would be getting kids outside more. I think there's like some preschools that do it now to where like their school is literally outside. Like you go in the woods and you forage and you learn about like nature and shit like that. It's pretty trippy, but and then they teach you normal stuff too as well. But I think that's
I like that.
The sun, the nature, all those things are really good for their development as well. So I think getting kids outside more, having kids socialize more, and then having fitness in there, I think would be really smart. Especially like she mentioned like form and technique. I think you're in PE and you have kids running around like playing handball. Yeah. Like you're running around throwing a ball at, which is fun.
Yeah.
Throwing a ball at kids, but like why not take them through a dynamic warm up where you teach them how to like do a really good squat, do a really good push up, and that's good. That would lead to like if they had every kid in PE class do 50 pull aparts, 50 air squats, 50 push ups. The beginning of every class, their posture would be so much better. They'd have stronger joints and tendons.
Yeah.
And when they get into college in their later years, they'd just be in a better position.
Yeah.
They'd be healthier. I mean, you're already sitting at your desk the whole time in a hunched over position. Like, open them up. But yeah, I think they should.
I'm so negative about this, but I just like the way society is now. I just feel like 3/4 of the class would be 20 minutes late to class because they don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, I skipped PE class all the time and weights and all that stuff. Partially because I think I was like, I was kind of embarrassed to get in the weight room because I never lifted.
Yeah.
So I was like, any way I can skip this, I will.
Yeah.
But yeah, I 100% agree. I think that would be the hardest part is getting kids to actually show up.
Absolutely. And the nutrition part, I think, is just, unfortunately, I understand it, but I don't understand at the same time, is the nutrition part is it's all about budget.
Yeah.
It's expensive to have nutritious meals for the entire school.
Yeah. But what I would say, too, is I almost think it's partially because the kids won't eat it, and that's why they don't do it. Because, realistically, they even have those.
I tell you what, they would eat it if that's all there is.
True. Yeah. But, the thing is they have those programs now where, they, like, deliver veggies and stuff, but they're, like, ugly.
Yeah.
You seen that? Like, it's just like, oh, this pepper is, like, shaped weird, but it's still a great organic pepper, so they give it to you at a discount, and they'll deliver it to your door. It's really cool. I can't remember what it's called, but, stuff like that. Like, get fruits and vegetables that are, like, kind of weird looking, but they're still normal, so when you cut it up, you wouldn't even tell.
Huh.
That would help. Like, and there's even programs that, Children's Hunger Fund.
Yeah.
Like, we donate 2,000 meals or maybe it's 2,500 meals per month. And that stuff is like focused on vitamins, minerals, nutritious foods for kids because they're doing it the right way. But because they're a corporation like that, and public schools could do the same thing, I would assume, they have big companies that are food production companies, like giving them insane discounts or sponsoring them to help them with this movement because they want to help too. And like, it's a good look on their company.
Yeah.
Like if they're helping students eat healthier,
it
just makes your company look better.
Yeah.
So I'm sure schools could find a way, but
they could. I totally agree with you. There's two things in my mind. Like there's so many schools.
Yeah.
So many schools. And then also, if they can get an insane discount from those food companies giving them nutritious foods, what's the discount they're getting from the companies that aren't nutritious food?
Yeah.
It's like whatever
Yeah.
But
yeah, dude, I don't know.
I don't know that answer. Yeah.
That's a tough one, man. Like
that's why it's just an opinion.
Yeah, well, that's why, like, I remember at Hot Lunch, like, there was that line that was like sandwich and salad, and it was like
empty.
Yeah. It's like, you want your lunch fast, go to that line.
Yeah.
And then like taco salad line is like out the door.
Yep.
Taco salad was fire.
Stupid fire.
It was so good.
Dude, and then they had like the little square miniature Domino's pizzas at the snack bar.
Yeah.
Dude, fire. The fruit punch can.
It's really gross if you think about it too. Like that taco salad was just like mush meat with like Fritos on it.
Oh my god.
But it was
know
good.
Exactly what you mean.
It was good for some reason.
Well, yeah, it was.
Yeah. Young kids.
Yeah.
Ugh, sometimes I think about the shit I used to eat.
Dude,
like,
I think I ate. This is so embarrassing. I think I ate the same meal at like sophomore and junior year of high school for 2 years straight, every day.
What was that? The pizza thing?
The pizza, the fruit punch, and like a bag of Doritos. My dad gave me $6 for lunch every single day, and it was like $4.50 for all of that, and I collected $1.50 every day. But I ate the same thing.
Yeah, that's that.
So good.
I definitely switched mine up. I was a big special guy. Whatever the special was.
Yeah.
Yankee dip, whatever you're throwing out there, I'll get it.
Yankee dip?
Yeah, I eat like shit. And then
Is that like French dip?
Dude, it's like French dip, but instead of like roast beef, it's like burger patty.
Whoa.
It's good. It basically looks like it's like a cheeseburger on a hoagie. Like
okay.
It's good.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I think I remember that.
But you could dip it in odd juice if you wanted to. But French dip's fire. Super good. We made that not that long ago, honestly. But fuck, I used to eat like frozen taquitos and shit so much. Yeah. So gross.
Yeah. That's cool.
No, at home.
Oh, yeah.
Just go home and
absolutely
demolish freezer food. I ate really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I was fat, so makes sense.
There you go. A and B together.
That was like people ask me sometimes like what my like when I first lost weight, like what were the things that like you did to help you lose weight? I was like, I literally just stopped eating freezer food and drinking pop. Like I didn't train, I didn't do anything. I just stopped eating that shit and I started drinking Diet Mountain Dew instead of Mountain Dew. And I like instantly lost 10 pounds in like 2 weeks. It's just like immediately started my journey like on a good foot.
Damn, this is easy.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously you plateau after a while and you had to figure shit out, but for a lot of people, it can be super simple.
One little aspect.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right, we'll keep going. Next one is from Gavin Desauras. Gavins Desauras.
I don't think you can get better at pronouncing names either. Like, there's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
To like
Go practice names.
Yeah. You can't like. I mean,
I'm gonna go get a list of
get a yearbook and just read.
You'll get a list of the people that ask the most questions and just practice their names.
Yeah. Hey, go to my followers and just start reading their usernames for practice.
20
minutes a day.
All right. Anyway, suggestions or advice for someone who isn't in a position to afford a coach or mentor.
I think this one,
Ebooks.
I mean, ebooks. There's seminars and workshops you can go to. Maybe you can't afford a monthly coaching fee, but you can afford $100 workshop that gives you an ebook, some PDFs, and like 4 videos to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that at the end of the day, it's like, go learn.
Yeah.
Like, there's just so much shit on the internet.
Yeah.
And if I really think about like my mentors, the vast majority of them don't even know who I am. It's honestly like I just buy their products. I listen to their seminars. They don't even do coaching. You know what I mean? Like,
your mentors?
Yeah, like they're mentors from afar. Like if you think about like Eric Helms, for example, now he knows who I am because we're doing a podcast next week. But I've been studying his stuff since 2012.
Yeah,
and we never had a relationship.
That's true.
But I buy every product he puts out. I buy every book he puts out. I read all his stuff. I listen to his interviews because he has a knowledge that I strive to attain.
Yep.
So I just follow and listen and learn.
Yep.
All the time. And that goes for everybody. Garrett J. White. He doesn't know who the hell I am. I don't know who he is. I mean, I've seen him speak live, but I consume all of his content because he lives a life in a way that I want to follow. So I do what he does. I think how he thinks. I try to, at least. I learn from him. So I think a lot of times it's like just like whoever you are idolizing, and I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in a good way. Like somebody who is living the type of life and has the type of career or has the body or whatever it is that you have, study them. Like, what do they do? Why do they do it? How do they do it? Who do they hang out with? What's their environment like? What are they reading? Like, that's a big one for me is I would just ask, like, I would ask people that all the time, like, what are you reading right now? And they would tell me and I just buy books.
Yeah.
Like, I get recommendations on Instagram and I go on Amazon right away and just add them to the list. Like, so many books I haven't read yet, but I want to know what other people are reading because they have something I want.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to read what they read.
Yeah.
And then I'd also say this too, like, why can't you afford it? Figure that out because I personally believe that coaching and mentoring is so valuable that it's like, if you truly value it, you will find a way to pay for it. So look at we can all sit here and go, okay, what am I spending money on that I don't need to spend money on? Like if I cut out all the rock stars and Starbucks.
Need.
What?
Need.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They said weed. I was like, I don't smoke, man. But
no, you said what could I cut out that I don't need to
exactly. Spend so like if you look at that, like shit, I could save a couple $100 a month on just stupid stuff I buy that I enjoy drinking Rockstar every day. Yeah. But like 7 Rockstars a week.
Yeah.
Like I literally
do I want to do I want to drink water or do I want to have a coach?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, simple as that. Or I'm going to opt for black coffee today because I can buy a huge bag of that and I have a coffee maker in the office.
Yeah.
But so like looking at your budget, saving money there, like, I mean, do you have, like we did this, I was like, we have HBO Go, Amazon Prime, Netflix, and Hulu. Why?
I want it.
we don't need all these. Yeah. So like, which ones do we watch? Cut out the rest.
Yeah.
And we kept Prime, and then I hopped onto my stepmom's Netflix account. Yep. So it's like, boom! I just saved fucking $75 a month.
Yep.
But like a lot of times, like there's just people that have subscriptions that they don't even think about. You know. So most people could save a lot of money on just little things like that. And then usually, I've never met anybody who hired a mentor, not necessarily a fitness coach, because I'm sure there people can say that this didn't happen for them. But most times I think of fitness as well because you just develop as a person. I've never met anybody who hired a mentor and didn't make more money afterwards.
Yeah.
Because you become more productive, you become more appreciative, more grateful, you become more motivated, you do more shit, and you essentially end up working more or better or smarter or faster and making more money. Like, even if it's not a business coaching setting.
Yeah. And 2 things is if you are, well, first off, if you're going to hire a coach and you can't afford it and you make a way to afford it, then you're going to take it seriously.
Oh, 100%.
Because if you can't afford it and you're still going to do it, then you're not going to just not, and then that's going to lead to be able to make more money. But then I'm also going to speak for the people that literally cannot afford it. It goes back to if you cannot afford it, but you have that fire underneath you to learn that stuff, but you can't afford it, again, follow that person, get whatever you can for free. Mm-hmm. There's so much out there for free that if you cannot afford it because you have a lack of income and you still want it that bad, get it.
I mean, you could literally turn in a question every single week, and you would get my answer on a podcast every single week. And it could be mindset or stress or whatever related.
Yeah.
Then, like, we could read the same person over and over again.
And I'm not even saying it's this person that's answering this question, but if they're asking you questions, they can go on your website and get it for free.
Exactly. 100%.
Yeah.
And if there's more questions that come up, you can turn it in, and we'll answer it again. And I'm not the only person that does that.
Exactly. Yeah.
There's a lot of people
that they're
that do
following. I mean, they are obviously following you, but like you said, these other people that you follow and strive to be like, that maybe that's not you for them, but there's other people that they probably are following to strive to be like, but they also have free content.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, because a lot of people have free content.
So, like, Brendan Burchard is, like, a really successful coach. He's called the High Performance Coach. I bought his planner and his book for $20. No, it was $17 for the planner, and I paid like $4.99 for shipping. The book was free. I just had to pay shipping. And then when I got the book, he also gave me this audio series, and then that came with like a video course.
Yeah.
And I don't know him, but I have his planner that guides me through a daily journal practice. I have his book, and then I have his audio series, and I have a video course if I want to. Like, that's months of mentoring, essentially, and learning and knowledge from him for $20.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's ways you just have to go out of your way to find it. And I mean, the first non-training coach I ever had that I really invested money in. So there's two ways here. First one I invested money in, my first reaction was like, I can't afford that. But I valued it so much that I figured out a way to afford it. And I was like, I got to make more money once that happens because otherwise I can't keep doing this. And I figured out a way because when he told me to do something, I took it very seriously because I was like, I'm not blowing this opportunity, this money. So like you said, if you can barely afford it and you go in, you're going to utilize that shit. And then the other side of it was the very first mentor, first two mentors were free. But the first one I was like, he was a college teacher, so I changed my degree to mentor with him. And then the second one was Luca, and I just worked for free. Mm-hmm. I was like, I'm 18, dude. I can't pay for coaching, but what do I need to do to learn and do what you do? And he was like, you can do an internship. So I worked for free for 3 or 4 months, like just learning and grinding and cleaning the bathrooms and shit. Like, that's essentially that was a mentor, you know what I mean? I didn't pay $1, but I put in effort with what he needed help with, and obviously grew into a coach at his gym. But I think there's plenty of routes around it. Like, I don't think you always have to pay, but I would say there's a really big value inside of paying, because that's a super big form of accountability.
Absolutely.
Like, when you pay for something, like, you make shit happen.
Yeah, so. I agree. I can relate to it too in a different, with video and in that aspect. But just like, I just didn't, at one point I didn't want to pay for formal coaching or formal mentorship or anything. So I did what I was saying is I went out and got all the free information, all the free YouTube videos, and literally when it was presented to me is like, do you want to do this? Then go learn it. If you don't, then don't. Yeah. So either pay somebody to get a mentorship or get some formal training, or go find it for free.
And I think, like, you're a great example of like actually paying somebody provides a new sense of accountability too, because I mean, when you started with Andreas, like, you weren't 100% sold on coaching, but I was like, I'm going to invest in this so you can do it. Yeah. Because I think you'll find the value once you start. Yeah. And you told me the other day, you're like, oh, I'm going to keep doing it with them. Absolutely. And that's on you. You know what I mean? So like, and that coaching pushes you to study the stuff that is free even more. Yeah. And actually go through it. Because like you said, like, you can take in this free information, but if you don't do anything with it, that's on you. Yeah. Like, the information will present itself, but it's not going to do the work for you. Yeah. And I think that's where, like, the difficult part comes into play. And somebody needs to be there to be like, yo, did you do what you said you were going to do? Yeah. Like, that's accountability. Yeah. You know what I mean? Which is super powerful. But dope. That was a good answer.
Yeah. All right. Next one is from Paula Jean 2030. Dreaming here. But what do we do when the gym reopens? I want to go hard in the paint, but I'm also 43. Hard in the paint.
Hard in the paint. You remember that song?
I mean, I think. Is it like
It's either Waka Flocka or it's Rick Ross.
Hard in the paint?
Look it up. I'm pretty sure it's Rick Ross. Maybe Waka's in it. By the way, I hate Waka Flocka. I mean, he's probably a fine person, but
I saw him in concert. It was give me so many migraines.
so many migraines. Yeah, he just is obnoxious, man. Oh, yeah, it is Waka. Yeah, I go hard in the paint.
I think that new Flames or No Hands or
No Hands, yeah.
Yeah.
By him and Roscoe Dash.
Yes.
Tyga has a remix to Hard in the Paint that's dope.
Oh.
But Waka's not even in it. It's just the beat, which is why it's good. But first recommendation.
What do we do when gym's open?
Do not go hard in the paint. That is the first recommendation, which, by the way, has nothing to do with you being 43. I have clients who are 43 that would destroy my 23-year-old clients. Like, it has nothing to, and I have the opposite too, but I shouldn't say age has nothing to do with it because a 23-year-old athlete has, that advantage of being young and less wear and tear on his body. But at the end of the day, like, that's not going to stop you from training hard. Like, you'll be fine. But taking a big off period, I mean, we've been in quarantine for a month, right?
At least
a month.
I would say 6.
No, yeah, it is because Blakely's birthday was the 14th, which is a Saturday, and that next week was when all that shit happened, which was March 20th. Yeah, so over a month.
Over a month.
Like 5 weeks.
Yeah.
5 weeks. Let's say we have another. I think some gyms in the country will open over the next few weeks, just depending on like where you're located. But let's say you're somewhere between most likely the 8 to 12 week mark of not being in the gym training hard. Going from that to training hard in the paint with the gym, like weights, will just destroy you. It goes back to that whole stimulus to fatigue ratio. Your fatigue will be so high. Yeah, your stimulus will be high too, but your fatigue will be so high that you won't be able to get back to the gym. So I would recommend like go light, deload, and kind of have an intro week. Spend that first week kind of like easing into it and essentially deload your training, because deloading your training is still going to be a greater stimulus than you doing body weight and band workouts in your living room. It's going to be a way bigger stimulus because you have external load. So even if you right then are like, I usually do 200 pounds, right now I'm only doing 175, or even if you're like, I still feel like I have 3 in tank, just leave it because that's a stimulus and just ease into it. Like, there's no rush, you know what I mean? Like, ease into it and then progressively lower your RIR, essentially reps in reserve, and kind of progressively increase your load as you go. Otherwise, you're going to go in and you're going to do like an upper lower day and then just be smashed for 5 days and not be able to get back to the gym until the next week. Yeah. I'd rather go easy and have a higher frequency, and then as the weeks go on, you kind of pick back up. I know for me, like even after like surgery, when I spent that much time off the gym, I had to be super careful about what I did, not because I was going to injure myself, but because I just would be so drained and just taxed, I wouldn't recover.
Both, man.
Yeah, and obviously the injury risk goes up as you get fatigued too. So, but yeah, don't go hard in the paint. That's probably not the answer.
Hard in the paint from Paula Jean. All right. Next question. This is your last question for the day. Is Jamie Helton. Is it necessary to keep reducing calories to be in a deficit, or can diet breaks combat that?
Good question, but it's a good question. I think it's a misconception about diet breaks. Do you need a further deficit to continue losing weight? Yes. I mean, when your weight loss stalls, you need to create a bigger deficit to lose more weight. Having a diet break isn't going to increase weight loss unless you temporarily improve stress. Yep. But that's not a way to it doesn't eliminate the need for a calorie deficit, right? You still need that deficit. Otherwise, we'd just be taking diet breaks all the time and we'd be lean. It's not the case. When you're dieting, you're going to get to a point where your metabolism does kind of adapt and your body starts to adapt, and you're going to need to create a bigger deficit. So you either need to get more sleep, which would also reduce stress, but essentially when you get more sleep, you also burn more calories and improve your metabolism. You're going to need to either train harder, do more cardio, get more steps, or you're going to have to pull food. You have to figure out a way to create a deficit no matter what. A diet break is simply there to manage fatigue during the diet. So We take a diet break to mitigate physical, physiological, and psychological stress on the body. So as we have less food and we're training hard still, our body, our muscular system can't recover as well. The psychology behind just having to diet just gets kind of wearing on you. And then last but not least, you have these hormonal adaptations. Taking a diet break can potentially kind of alleviate those things. It doesn't remove them, it just alleviates it, and then you can get back to the deficit. So a diet break doesn't eliminate the need for a deficit, it just allows you to prolong your deficit. So how much longer can you stay on this diet without completely rebounding and gaining weight back? Doing a diet break will allow you to prolong that diet and keep seeing results with less stress. But nothing can remove the fact that you just need a deficit. Like that's just part of it.
Form.
Yeah.
Dope.
We have
Good
one more.
answer.
We have one more, right? Let's finish that longer one. We'll cap out with that.
You want to read it?
Yeah, I can read it. I already read it earlier. So, Emily Shoop. It's either Shoop or Shoopy or Shup. I am starting week 2 of a 12-week cut that will last until July 4th. Female. So she probably asked this a few weeks ago. Sorry. Female, 23 years old, 158 pounds. Calories are set to 1750, 160 protein, 55 fat, 153 carb. You should probably just make that 155 carb. That's like an OCD thing with me, and I hate that. Like 164 grams of protein. Just make 165. You're not getting exactly 153 anyway. We don't know. This is the first serious cut, quote unquote, that I am doing, as I tried to cut previously but had some issues with consistency. I've done some mindset work to help adhere, and I'm in a much better spot mentally, which I highly recommend people doing. Get yourself there mentally before you jump into a diet. My question is centered around how I periodize training. I started lifting weights 2.5 years ago, doing boot camp style workouts 2 to 3 times a week with 2 days of cardio. I did that for a year and a half. I did Orange Theory Fitness for 6 months after that before I started focusing on strength training. I got bored with repetitive lifts and now follow a program that is a 5-day split: legs, upper body, HIIT cardio, back and chest, full body. Sometimes I do a 6-day and train legs twice. Movements are reps and varied. Movements are reps. I'm assuming she means and. Movements and reps are varied week to week, but volume is in the 8 to 15 rep range. I am interested in doing a hypertrophy program after my cut and want to follow a tailored coaching method program. Oh, dope. What program would you recommend? I didn't read the whole question before this. For best results, should I wait until I finish my cut to start a new training program? Thank you so much for all that you share. So,
all right, Emily, here we go.
Yeah, a couple things. First and foremost, I don't think your program should change whether you're cutting or bulking, or trying to build muscle or maintaining or anything like that. Because at the end of the day, like, the best program during a cut is the program that's going to help you maintain strength in muscle to the greatest degree during that cut.
Yeah.
So changing your training up won't really do anything good for you. The only thing that's going to happen when you get out of a deficit, you're going to lift heavier. So technically volume will be a little bit higher. So I wouldn't recommend changing things. Now, what program I would recommend in the tailored coaching method is, if you're talking about an ebook, if you want to train 5 days a week, go with Functional Muscle 2. If you want the option of training 4, 5, or 6, go with Built for You, because it can allow you to adjust. But ultimately, I would join the Tailored Trainer, because then you can get access to TrueCoach. You get access to me in the portal to answer questions and critique the program in your form. And it's just, it's a community full of people that are getting better, and it's daily workouts done for you. But inside there's a couple programs that I would recommend. One is the Female Physique, and that one is a 5-day split, and it is lower, upper, push-pull legs. And actually, it's lower, upper, legs, push, pull. And the reason I do that is because on the pull day, you also have deadlifts, because we're hitting glutes 3 times a week. And we are hitting more upper back, shoulders, glutes, hamstrings, like all the body parts women typically want to develop. And then the other program I'd recommend is the Modified Conjugate Method for females. And that is a more performance-oriented program, working on strength. But there's a lot of hypertrophy aspects in there, and it does still cater to the body parts that a female likes to train most. But either way, the biggest thing that you're seeing here from what I'm recommending compared to what you're doing is that your split is kind of, it doesn't really make sense. Like, you have a lower upper day and then a push-pull full body. So especially as a female, your biggest muscle groups are your legs. Mm-hmm. So if you want to get leaner, train your legs. But you're doing 1 leg day and 1 full body day. So you're doing like 1.5 leg days, but you're doing 3 upper body days and then a half upper body day on the full body. Doesn't really make sense. Evenly spread it out. So either do an upper lower or do, like I said, lower upper legs push pull, which is going to evenly spread out everything as well. More volume across the whole body. As a natural lifter, you're probably going to just want more frequency. When you have more frequency throughout the week, you have that response to build muscle more often, and it's easier to spread out your volume without smashing yourself. Because if you do all your volume in one day, you're past the threshold where you're seeing benefit. You're kind of having diminishing returns, and B, that fatigue ratio is super high, so you're more fatigued than you are actually stimulating growth. But if you divvy up that same volume across the week, you're going to get way more out of it.
Yeah.
So I would just bump up your frequency. And then as far as like periodization with it, I mean, there's a million ways you can spend it. Usually with hypertrophy or aesthetic goals, I like using like a classic linear progression for compound lifts. So maybe week 1 is you're doing sets of 8, and then week 2 is sets of 7, week 3 is sets of 6, week 4 is sets of 5, and then you come back to 8s. You're basically just dropping volume and increasing intensity. You're lowering reps and increasing load. It's just a normal linear progression. You just cycle the same compound lifts for 12 to 16 weeks so you can progress on those with strength. And then your accessory work and isolation work changes every 3 to 4 weeks as well, but you're doing double progression. So if you're doing a hip thrust, you do a hip thrust from 8 to 10 reps. Week 1, you're doing 3 sets of 8 at 150 pounds. Week 2, you're doing like 9 reps, 8 reps. Like, point being, you're trying to work till you can get all 3 sets with 10.
Gotcha.
Where you used to do 3 sets of 8 with it.
Yeah.
So you're progressing by reps over time, which is going to accumulate volume without adding any load or stress on the joint. And that's my favorite for hypertrophy or aesthetics, is like you have your compound lifts that you're doing a linear progression with, and then your isolation accessory you're doing a double progression with, and just kind of working on those ranges. But if you do that and you just have that small amount of periodization, you really don't have to change anything. You just cycle that linear periodization in your compounds. You have the double progression method for your isolation accessory work, and you just change those exercise selections when you stop progressing, whether that's 3 weeks or 6 weeks, and then you keep going. And I think that's a big mistake a lot of people make, because they see periodization and they're like, I have to change things all the time. And it's like, well, with training, if you're trying to just build muscle, I mean, I use this example. This is week 9 for me, and we just changed some exercises this week because I got bored. Not even because I wasn't progressing, but I was just like, hey, I'm going to switch a couple things because I just need to stimulate my mind. So I'm changing a grip. I'm changing like pull-ups to ring chin-ups, but nothing crazy. And like for 8 weeks straight, I kept the exact same movements across the board because I was progressing. So why change something if it's working?
Yeah.
And I think people get too antsy for that.
Unless you get stagnant.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And some people get stagnant sooner than others. And for some people, I just change their program every 3 to 4 weeks, like small things, because I know they won't stay motivated in the gym. And that's a good reason too, but you should keep some of the stuff that you really want to see progress, and just have a very simple periodization, especially if your goal is fat loss. The main thing you just have to make sure is you're getting your volume in.
For sure.